spotlight on the women creating an impact, leading organizations, and mission-focused strategic programs across the federal technology and consulting community. This is Impact. I am being joined today by Susannah Reed, the Area Sales Manager for Federal Civilian Agencies at GitLab. Susannah, thank you for hopping on with us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So first, tell me what it is you do over at GitLab.
Well, I have the pleasure of leading an amazing team that helps support the missions of civilian agencies as they adopt DevSecOps practices and our software that helps enable that. GitLab is really the most comprehensive AI-powered DevSecOps platform for software innovation. We empower government agencies to drive sustainable transformation forward by delivering secure software at the speed of mission while meeting strict compliance requirements. So it's pretty exciting. I've been with GitLab for about 6 years now, first as an individual contributor and now as our leader for the civilian agencies. And it's exciting to see our growth because we have more than 40 million registered users. Wow. Fortune 100 companies. And probably, I think at this point, almost every single federal agency trusting GitLab to ship better and more secure software.
Wow. So tell me, what personal experiences have been your aha moments that shaped your personal path, and how have they influenced your unique leadership style?
Sure. I'm actually going to go a little bit way back on this one because I actually had a little bit of a challenging childhood. My mom was very sick in ways that we didn't understand. Many of her doctors didn't understand. And as a result, people really treated our family differently. I went to a small school where in a lot of ways we could sometimes be ostracized for the way that we were different and the things that people didn't understand. But I had a few teachers, especially in high school, that saw potential in me and really took an interest in me and wanted to support my growth. They saw my curiosity, my desire to learn, and they really fostered that. They gave me a lot more opportunities, both to kind of compete externally. I was even given the opportunity to participate in a leadership program while I was in high school. But ultimately, what it did was build my own self-confidence and my self-worth. And it drove in me a desire to really want to pay that forward to the next generation as well. So as I was in college, I had a great opportunity to actually be the co-director of our Cornell chapter of a program called Let's Get Ready, which is a student-led organization that provides free SAT coaching, college guidance, help with financial aid applications to financially disadvantaged students, with the ultimate goal of helping close like the achievement gap. It was sort of our way of sort of leveling the playing field and giving an opportunity to students, for many of whom it was they were the first ones in their family to even go to college. And then as we fast forward this desire to make a difference, I think, is sort of what brought me into the public sector. I'm very passionate about the missions that we support and the small role that GitLab plays in enabling those missions. And as I've been in my professional career, I would say, I've had a wide variety of both what I call more managers, who would micromanage you a little bit, sometimes belittle you, who would take credit for the team's successes. And then I had those who were leaders, who really who see your strengths even more than you see them, but also see the areas where you need to develop and work one-on-one in coaching you on sort of this continuous improvement. And that's the approach I certainly strive to take in my own leadership style. But I think what's behind that is really sort of this sense of curiosity. Like, I always try to approach every conversation that I have with one of my team members with a curious mind, asking the questions, really understanding the situation and their thinking so that I can provide sort of that coaching as I can. But it's also helping them see their strengths, pushing them past their comfort zone. It's really easy to live in that that comfortable area doing the same thing that you do day in and day out. But I try to look for opportunities for them to either participate in sort of bigger company projects or to speak when it makes sense to speak because they are the subject matter expert on something. But I do all of this sort of with a sense of, I'd say sort of empathetic leadership, showing my own vulnerability. And that's really how I like to approach things, seeing people's strengths, seeing how people can work together to meet our overall goals and success.
I love celebrating other people's strengths and helping them shine. We have a girl that works with us. She's our graphic designer. She puts out some amazing graphics. They are just beautiful. And I'm always bragging on her and how good she does. And I think it's a little bit embarrassing to her because I'm like, you are so, so good. I could sit here and draw for days and it would just look like a blob. Like I have no artistic skills, but just somebody that has these abilities, and it's great to make them feel good about their skills too.
100%.
So what are your go-to methods for staying inspired and growing as a leader? And can you share a time when you turned a challenge into a stepping stone for personal or team growth?
Sure. Obviously I have this desire to make an impact on mission. So I think that what inspires me most is hearing, I'd say first from my customers. I love hearing from my customers the most about, a challenge that they were facing at their agency, how they overcame that, how we drove their program, how they drove their program success. And I especially love when it includes some contribution from my team or from my company's technology. We played a small role in that. Technology is only a small part of the equation. But I love hearing those stories and seeing what I can learn from them and then work into my own sort of leadership style and what I'm sharing with my team. I also love going to networking events, speaking with other leaders. It's funny, as I was preparing for this podcast, I was listening to some of the other recordings that you're doing, and I love hearing the people that I know in industry and hearing their points of view. We've learned so much from each other. We shouldn't gatekeep our knowledge. We shouldn't gatekeep our experiences. We should be sharing them because that's how we're all going to grow as a society. And then my team. I think my team is so much the number one most inspiring thing for me. I love hearing when they were going through a challenging situation with their customer, what they did, how they turned it around, how they turned it into a success, or even it doesn't even have to be the successes. You asked about how you turn challenges into opportunities. To me, you can't have an opportunity without a challenge.
Right.
You really can. And I think what's more interesting is hearing from those losses or hearing from what didn't go right and getting people comfortable sharing that so that it becomes a teachable moment for others on the team. So we do this both in sort of just team meetings. We'll talk about what went well. We'll give kudos for other people, but we also talk about what didn't go well and what we could have learned from it. And then I think on a really big scale, the biggest challenge, I know we're all sick of talking about it, but the biggest global challenge that we've all faced lately was the pandemic. And this was actually sort of a unique opportunity for GitLab because prior to the pandemic, we were actually one of the world's largest all remote companies. Wow. And we're a very transparent company. We love it. We're open source software. We love sharing everything that we know. And one of the things that we had actually developed prior to the pandemic was an all remote playbook. How to do it right. What was our secret sauce that even, Harvard Business School has done case studies on our all remote culture, wow. And sharing that back. And this actually became a great opportunity for our government customers. I was working really closely with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office as the pandemic unfolded. I was actually in their office a couple days before everything closed down. And I think one of the greatest things was the director that I was working with, scheduled a Zoom call with me. I shared with him, we actually we make public this remote playbook. And we're talking about some of the things that we do to maintain our culture, to make asynchronous work, really be even more productive than working together in an office. And I think that it became a great opportunity for us to help enable the customers that we are supporting, but also, sort of be seen as the thought leader in that area.
Isn't it sort of funny? I worked remotely for many, many years before COVID as well. And it's sort of funny how work was back then compared to now. Back then, when you would tell somebody, let's get on a Zoom or something like that, they would be very confused. They wouldn't know how to use Zoom. They wouldn't know how to work their camera. They would be like, well, can't we meet in person? Like, no, we're like cities away. Let's just hop on a Zoom real quick. And people would just be weird about it. And now everybody knows how to use Zoom. It's no thing anymore.
Yeah. And you know what? I can do so many more meetings
Yes, you can get
in a
so
day
much
on
more
Zoom
done.
than I
Yes.
could ever do when I was like going and visiting some of my customers on site. I still love doing that. I love seeing my customers in person, but
It's nice to go in person, but the traffic, oy.
I know.
So what creative ideas do you have for organizations to foster a nurturing environment that empowers women to step into leadership roles? And how can we ensure our future leaders feel supported and included?
So I think that there's both formal things and informal things that we can do to support women in their professional growth. So here at GitLab, there's things that we do from our growth and development program so that people can take like outside trainings and things like that. Like I was fortunate enough to do some of ACT IACT's professional development, and we're so supportive in doing that. Having the company pay for those programs, giving people the flexibility in their schedules to be doing that while also, achieving the results for their jobs. Is putting in place mentorship programs, and specifically women, ones geared toward women that are to let them know, hey, this is important to our company. Have your executives, have your senior leaders, in all the way across different functions, have that one-on-one sort of formal relationship. I mean, it's great when you have those mentorships that happen organically, from the people that you report to or other folks. But sometimes it's so much better when you're having sort of that skip level or higher level discussion. You can see what was your growth path. Here are the things that I'm struggling with. Have you ever seen this before? What would you do? Getting that advice. And I think that is some of the most beneficial things that you can do to foster a woman's growth. Also having things like team member resource groups. This is it becomes a safe place for folks to talk with each other, talk about the challenges, seeing the commonalities, and also seeing what are some specific needs that we have. Can we have someone come in and talk about career growth, talk about balance, have like guest speakers for specific topics that are important to us, and let us be at the wheel and driving what that is. And then I think that there's just very informal things that really need to happen that go into sort of the culture of the company. Everyone has to be an ally. You need to, one, recognize those with potential and the desire to move forward and have some of those more informal mentorship. But also when you're in a meeting, if you hear somebody speaking over somebody else, if you hear somebody, mention a great idea and it, falls by the wayside and somebody else mentions it, and then all of a sudden it's their idea and people suddenly listen when it's someone of a different gender that mentions it, call those things out. And be there to stop microaggressions as they happen, but also be there with micro affirmations. Cheer each other on, recognize each other's success. I love that you were the cheerleader for your graphic designer. That's what we need to do. We need to be cheerleaders for each other.
I don't think that you see that enough either. You see a more of the negative than you do of the positive, sadly, a lot. So what exciting trends or innovations in the workplace do you think are game changers for the future of leadership? And how can today's leaders gear up to embrace these shifts and lead with confidence?
So I think that there's been a a sea change. As the new generation has entered the workforce, culture and company culture has become so important, and companies have such a responsibility now to not just, write a mission statement, write what your company values are, put them in a paper document handbook
And never
that
look at it
nobody
again.
opens, put them on your website, never look at them again. Like, that's not going to fly anymore. And that's really something that I've seen. Like, I worked at really large companies in the past, and it was like a night and day change when I came to GitLab. And one of the big drivers of this is our GitLab values. They spell credit, so it's easy for us to remember all of them. But they are collaboration, results for customers, efficiency, diversity, inclusion, and belonging, iteration, and transparency. And part of the reason I can rattle these off like the top of my head is because they're so ingrained in everything that we do. When we are interviewing people to potentially join GitLab, we're thinking about it in the context of that. Anytime we're making a decision, we think about, is this going to help uphold our company values, or is this actually going counter to one of them? When people get bonuses, we have discretionary bonuses. If people are kind of going beyond their general job description and they're really exhibiting one of these values, they can get a discretionary bonus. It's part of our performance reviews. It's part of our promotion processes. Like, really a day doesn't go by that I don't think about one of our company values. And we really do live them. We have our whole, we are the most transparent, publicly traded company that I think you could find. We have our company handbook available on the internet. We are an open core software. We even share some of our meetings on YouTube so people can really see our inner workings and how we work. And I think that this really sets us apart and is a major differentiator for why people want to work here and why they, why we work so well together, why we collaborate. But it's also something that our customers see in us, in our interactions with them, and they truly value. So forget the technology, so much of it's about the people. And I see other companies and organizations and agencies even embracing this. I love the FDA when they say people first, mission always. And I think that I'm just excited about the responsibilities that companies now have to meet higher standards for company culture. And I'm just grateful to be a leader at a company like GitLab that is really fueling growth, innovation, and impact.
It's really cool that they're able to really have that collaboration going on with everybody being fully remote too. Yeah. You don't feel like you're all alone in a silo, even though you're working remotely.
I know. I've been with GitLab for almost 6 years now, and there are people that I work with day in and day out, and I've maybe met in person twice, 3 times. The biggest surprise always, though, is, because we do have such rapport and we do have such a good culture to interact asynchronously. The biggest surprise for me is always just how tall people are.
Yes, same. I was talking to a girl that I had worked with for off and on, and we met finally in person, and she was so tall. And I was like, on the calls, I always assumed you were short. I don't know why. It's so funny.
And it's just never what you expect. Sometimes they're short, sometimes they're taller, and it's fine.
Yes. And what I like is every company has their chat platform that they use. Like, my company uses Slack. And one of the girls that I work with, we're constantly sending pictures of our dogs. Like, my dogs sit on the floor around me while I'm working all day. I'm like, this must be nice. Like, they're all snoring at my feet. So it's fun.
And it's funny too, because we also use Slack, and we have sort of social channel Slack as well. So there's a great one that I love called In the Parenthood, because I have young kids, and we're sharing funny stories. We're sharing tips and tricks where, I feel like I know not just all of my team. I know their whole families. I know their pets.
You're not missing that water cooler conversation.
Yes, we're not missing it. It's happening organically, even though we're all on Zoom.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Susannah, is there anything else you would like to add?
Not really. I love this opportunity. I just think that, it's wonderful to be celebrating the women who are making an impact in public sector and to be sharing our knowledge with each other. We should all be continuously growing, and podcasts like this are a great way to do that.
Great. Well, Susannah, thank you for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you're keeping up to date on the latest episodes, and learn more at govforum.io.